Welcome, everybody. First things first, as always, if I could just get a quick audio visual check, please. Let me know you can see my charts clearly and you can hear me all right. How are you all doing this fine Friday evening, wherever you are? After a quick confirmation, so I know I'm not just talking to myself because I have muted myself in the past, we will get started. And I'm going to apologize in advance. My cat is just yowling outside my room here. She has lots to say on the topic of Bitcoin today. So all good. Right on, right on. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for being here with me this fine evening. Bitcoin has been absolutely pumping, but now is where my warning becomes very real. And to be honest, I think the level that we are currently trading in is dangerous for both the bulls and the bears. And yes, that includes myself. I don't want to sound cocky from a bearish stance, obviously, because I have some big warnings for both sides of things currently. So I do just want to talk about some levels to watch for, a few ways I'm currently handling this market and so on. You guys, first things first, we are starting to trade at resistance, right? And I know that my previous streams, I've had a bearish tone for quite a while, and that is no secret, no surprise to anybody. But understand where that bearish tone was coming from was it wasn't a YOLO short at those times, right? I was always talking about the very real possibility that we get up to this macro resistance level. And now that we're here, this is where the price always feels the strongest. And I want to be clear about this. The bulls are freaking very strong right now. Look at how big those weekly green candles are. It's a beautiful sight for all of us holding crypto. But now is where, the things that I have been warning about and why people were getting upset with me while I was sounding bearish, we're finally at those bearish levels now where, we're going to have to see what happens. But this is the point where we got to be cautious, because here's the thing, guys, is I'm basically waiting for a signal right now. I've been very clear about being quite bearish, but right now, even from a bearish stance, I can't ignore the warning flags to myself that, I do think that we have potential upside. For one, we haven't quite got my bearish divergence forming on the weekly chart yet. This is something that I've been waiting. I am waiting to see. And at that point, I think I will have a stronger opinion about which way we're going to head from here. But as it stands, we got very close to the 886. We haven't quite touched it yet. But the RSI does have a little bit of room to go, in my opinion. And honestly, here's the thing, guys. If the RSI just breaks through that level and goes back into overbought territory, at that point, that's just showing that there's a ton of strength, right? Relative strength index, a nice, strong bull market. As long as we are in overbought conditions, that's when I think the price looks great. That's where we're just seeing a lot of strength. So if that happens, then my bearish theory is basically out the window. But right now, it feels very similar to just like before Christmas there, where I was talking about, a potential double top with that bearish divergence down to this level, that 70. And that is what caused us to get that 30% correction to the downside, right? We were basically approaching the same resistance we couldn't break here. With this much strength on the RSI, we were coming at the same resistance level with significantly less strength. And then we ended up getting rejected. And that's kind of what I'm looking at right now as just a potentially much larger version of this trade setup. And that's why I have a very serious concern about this. Also, guys, the fact that we have had such a nice pump to the upside here, it looks very strong. But here's the thing, the fact that we basically shot straight up into my resistance level, we may start running out of steam, basically, right? You can tell just where we ended up getting a pause on the trend. We ended up getting this little 1 minute STUBER here. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But basically, like I said, guys, honestly, this is a level to be cautious no matter what angle you're approaching this from, in my opinion. Any shorts that I'm taking, I am very quick to cut my losses right now, because this range, even if this setup is to play out, you guys understand that the price could go all the way up to 114K until basically 115K is where my STUBER fibs get invalidated. yes, it is a very large price gap, basically from here to there. Yeah, it's a $10,000 move, actually slightly more, 12 or $13,000 move before this is invalidated. That's because this is a large time frame, you guys. This is a weekly chart. Even if you want to look at it on the 4-hour or the daily, it would be the same thing, but it's a very large swing. And that means invalidation is going to be quite a ways away, just like we are now in a very large resistance zone. So really, we might not get rejected right away. Then that's why when I'm trading shorts on the 1 minute or the 5 minute, I'm still very quick to reduce my risk or just cut my losses straight up. I just told my followers in the Telegram channel about another short trade I took. We're going to see, it may even get stopped out during this stream. Who knows? I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it was just a nice setup for a potential very large move versus the size of loss that it'll take if it gets invalidated. But as it stands right now on the weekly, there's no arguing it. Yes, the bulls look strong, but yes, we are now in resistance. And I have been saying for quite a while, those of you guys who have been in my streams, maybe you can confirm this. I've been saying for a while now that when we end up hitting this STUBER fib pocket, as soon as we start testing that 786, you're going to start seeing on social media that the bull market's back on. You're going to see a whole bunch of FOMO posts. We literally just hit the 786 yesterday. And this morning, the first thing I saw on my phone was an alert saying, I'm not going to point out any names, but basically it said the bull market is back on. It was a live space on Twitter or whatever. But that's the first thing I read this morning, right after we end up testing the 786, right? And I've been saying that is basically the start of, that's exactly why these levels are such perfect bull traps. Just like on the opposite end of things, if we would have came down here, it would have been a beautiful bear trap. Unfortunately, never got all the way there yet, at least, right? And we don't have to. But as it stands right now, from a bearish perspective like myself, I am hoping to catch a very large move with a scalp size stop, basically. So I'm okay if I end up taking a few small losses versus the size of swing that I'm trying to get myself into. I'm totally okay with that. However, that being said, guys, just from a fundamental, just my own personal set of rules is I would always rather be a seller at resistance, just like I'd always rather be a buyer at support. And this is no different, just because it's on, it feels different because we're pumping so aggressively, but now we're starting to hit these weekly levels and we just have to be cautious no matter what direction we're playing. And guys, actually, that's something else I want to talk about is I know I've had a very bearish tone on these streams, but understand I'm actually significantly more bullish. This is one time where this doesn't happen often, but I am actually significantly more bullish on altcoins right now than I am on Bitcoin, because something to point out here is Bitcoin's at resistance right now. And, like you can tell how I'm analyzing this. I mean, we are at a very uncertain level, in my opinion. So I would rather kind of take the small trades, whatever. If I get into a good one, great. But it's so uncertain that I don't mind playing altcoins at this time while I wait for Bitcoin to make up its mind. Is it going to smash through resistance and continue staircasing higher? Then great. Then I have some nice pullbacks to end up getting into some longs from there. But as it stands right now, we're still at resistance. So like one thing that I've been doing, and let me know in the chat, especially if you are in the Telegram, guys, I try and keep the shit coins, the meme coins. I try and keep that to a minimum. It is something that I do trade as well. And especially times like this, the last week or so, most of my trading has been just spot trading, low cap, volatile meme coins. So not even with leverage, right? Because they're so volatile already. That's just basically opening myself up that, hey, if Bitcoin's just going to range, for one, if Bitcoin, pumps like this and starts ranging, altcoins are going to most likely do fantastic. However, a lot of them, especially, we can look at Ethereum, we are nowhere near our macro resistance yet, right? Bitcoin's already there. Ethereum isn't even close. Solana isn't even close. Yeah, sure, they can get rejected at any time. They can end up seeing finding some resistance. Hell, right now, right? Solana could find resistance off of this right now. But as far as a full swing setup and looking at the Fibonacci's and everything, some of these bigger cap coins like this, Solana and ETH, which have their own very large ecosystems, they have not hit that resistance yet. And I think that is very good for the altcoin market. And especially when I'm looking at meme coins, the ones with very low market caps, market caps sometimes under 5 million, so many of them that have flatlined and basically ceased to exist to most people. A lot of them started breaking structure and basically started seeing some very nice pumps recently. So that is something that, it's been more predictable, in my opinion, playing altcoins recently than Bitcoin. But let me know in the chat if total shit coins interest you, meme coins, more so just higher cap coins. Because guys, I do want to make this clear. One of the reasons why I don't really talk about the micro caps very much, basically just why I don't talk about them much and tell you where I'm trading them and that sort of stuff, is that a lot of them, especially when they have low market caps like that, a lot of them have low trading volume, and a lot of people don't know to check for that sort of thing, and they just ape into positions. And I don't want to say, hey, I'm buying into whatever this meme coin is, and then for one, have you hold on and hoping for 100x. And for two, just let's say that, when they're low caps like that, I always put multiple small orders just so I don't cause slippage on myself. Whereas someone else who doesn't know or doesn't have experience, whatever, might just put in a big market buy and, cause a whole bunch of slippage on themselves and get wrecked. And I don't really want to feel guilty of, check out these coins and then you just trade it wrong. Right. So understand that there is huge risk involved with trading those low cap volatile coins. But it is something that I've enjoyed doing while Bitcoin's kind of making up its mind here in the macro resistance, right? Also, I do want to talk about, before I hop into the chat here, the monthly chart, you guys. I've been warning about this order block here. Now, full disclosure, it's obviously looking great right now. It looks like we've broken out, but understand that we have got those fake outs in the past with these order blocks. But in the end, they've always ended up holding, just like this one back here during COVID, right? So, I mean, we could actually break to the upside quite significantly. And then depending how the candle closes, and this is the thing, guys, is this monthly candle doesn't actually close for about 22 more days. So 3 weeks until we actually get an answer if this order block is going to hold as a SR flip, support resist flip. Obviously it's going to take a long time to play out because it's a very long time frame. We still do have the bearish cross there. So again, there is some things lining up that, as far as Moon Boy goes, just be aware that we're trading into resistance. My whole thing is, and I actually mentioned in my Telegram the other night, that, if we get this bearish confirmation that, hey, it looks like the RSI is getting rejected at the 70, we get some sort of a rejection anywhere from the 786 up towards my Stuber invalidation, some sort of a swing fail, anything like that with this divergence on the RSI, I will be strongly considering selling a good chunk of spot, taking a good chunk of profits, making some life upgrades, stuff like that. Because there's just a big warning there. And just like any other trade that I do with leverage or anything, when I see the red flags forming against myself, I mean, I'm just going to treat it for what it is. A lot of people have told me that I'm dumb for doing that, hey, we're back above 100K. It would be so dumb to sell now. Understand that a lot of people weren't bullish down below 20K like I was. A lot of people who weren't buying and weren't long and weren't bullish until above 50K, who are now saying that, we've barely had a bull run. Understand that Bitcoin's had a very good couple of years, guys. It's up over 500% or 400%, whatever. Yeah, up about 500% from where I was heavily buying at the start of the cycle after the FTX collapsed happened. And so I don't mind taking some profits on the spot position at these levels. And here's another thing, is that people assume that when they hear that, they jump to the conclusion he's selling everything, and if we go parabolic, he's going to absolutely miss it. No, just like any other trade that I take, I ladder into positions, I ladder out of positions, and I would take partial profits. Um, like I said, because there's red flags there. But understand this as well, guys, is if we end up getting up to this level, we end up getting that RSI bearish signal that I'm looking for. And let's say I end up selling, some right around the 886 or the 786, right? Either or. If I end up selling at those levels, there's still a very good chance that I can get my invalidation and just buy back in at the same level. Or worst case, just if I was worried about missing a breakout, I could set a stop limit order. I could set a trigger order, whatever. Just like the opposite of a stop loss, right? I could set that so that if we end up breaking out, I automatically buy back in, and okay, the little bit that I sold, I'm going to be able to buy back 10% less. Or just consider it, like I said, taking profits and then riding out the rest of the market cycle with what I have left. I am happy with either of those ideas right now, but just kind of tossing around those ideas and explaining that just because somebody takes some profits after they're up 500% doesn't mean that they're missing an entire bull market. So depending where people get in, what people's risk tolerances are, what their living arrangements are, does it make sense to take profits at resistance? If I was trading this as a leverage position and I was long from even down here, not to mention all the way down here, just the fact that we're back at the top of a range, I would be starting to take partial profits, because play the range first and hope for a breakout with the rest, basically, right? Because here's the thing. If I end up, selling some of my spot around this level, we end up pumping and I basically buy back in, very close to the same level. Whereas someone who refuses and is in fact just leverage longing into this level, and then we get something like that and they miss all of it, I'm okay with taking profits along the way. Another thing that's just catching my eye right now about this is, I don't really like to analyze single candles, but you often see this. It's almost like a bit of a bull flag, right? Because we have this straight shot to the upside. We have one doji candle as a bit of a continuation here, just consolidation. And then from where we break out there, notice that a measured move lines up very close to where we got / the 886, whatever. Again, I don't really like to analyze candles that closely. But again, just kind of a few things lining up that could be lining up with this resistance, basically. So just some red flags, guys. I'm not telling you have to be bearish. I'm not telling you have to sell everything. I'm not telling you have to short. All I'm saying is please use caution at this level. And that goes for the bears as well, because there is strength. I can't deny that. But I feel like this Sunday, I think I'll have a stronger opinion about the overall trend, because we're going to see how this weekly candle closes. If this weekly candle ends up pulling back here and closing below the 786, that's going to be a little bit of a warning to me that we might be getting rejected at that STUBER fib, right? So just kind of a few things that I wanted to point out to watch for moving ahead. I am going to catch up on the chat here. I will throw on some gentle tunes here as well, you guys. If you do just kind of want my updates as I go, obviously I can post to my Telegram my thoughts on the market in general a little more than I'm getting to live streams. So if you do enjoy the way I look at market structure, keep a level head, some of the indicators I use, how I look at Fibonacci's, all that sort of stuff. If you want to see more examples of that sort of thing, some of my trade ideas, just my overall thoughts on the market, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code. There's also a link and steps in the description down below if that is something that interests you. They basically the same idea there, guys. I have been explaining how I am bearish, but being cautious right now, right? I like I said, I'm very willing to cut losses very quickly and that sort of stuff. Speaking of that, I do want to go over the little bit of a short that I took, which honestly would not be surprised to see it get stopped out. But what I like about this is it's one of these setups where it's potentially an entire shift in trend versus a scalp loss. So the risk reward is huge. So I don't really care if it ends up getting stopped out, because generally I like playing this as a reversal more so than just looking for a quick Fibonacci scalp sort of a thing. But what we have here with the MDX Trendmaster indicator is this is just the 5 minutes. So take it for what it is. But we ended up getting this buy signal with a lower buy signal, just showing that, hey, you know, support stepped in a little bit later. Just like here, we have this sell signal with a lower sell signal. So basically, where we got our pivot point for our last sell signal here, we got here right around 103,350 US dollars. So if we end up breaking this level, then I'm going to consider this trend invalid. And I think the bulls are just going to continue running from there. And then I have to wait for a new setup on that sort of thing. I do still have half of a STUBER short setup, because as I mentioned yesterday in the Telegram, I was basically looking for some sort of a shorter time frame STUBER fib setup when we get into the 4 hour or the weekly, whatever the macro resistance here. We did end up here. Let me just point this out. Oh, it was actually on the 1 minute, not the 5 minute. Sorry. It was just a typical STUBER fib setup though. Basically it was on the micro trend. Notice that we ended up having this higher high, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And that's what this red line is here. And eventually we broke it. Then where do we eventually end up retesting? We trade down for a little bit. The fibs actually would have dropped very slightly. Let me just drop that. Would be basically something like that. And we got essentially a perfect double top, little swing fail, whatever. But I had laddered entries into it, just like a typical STUBER fib, and very quickly hit my first 2 take profit orders, but I still have half of that running as well. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, with this one, it's either going to be a full-on trend reversal here, because of the, also on the 1 minute, we also have the lower sells, but I'm more interested in the 5 minute for that. Yeah, just a very obvious invalidation level here if this isn't going to play out. So yeah, very tight stop for a very large potential move if we go back to where this trend started, basically, which would basically be all the way down here. Now, I'm not saying we have to get that move. I would definitely be taking profits along the way if we were going to actually get it and I don't get stopped out. I'll be taking profits along the way, and I'll be keeping the Telegram up to date with that as well. But yeah, let me throw on a little bit of soft music here for you guys. Let me know if it's too loud, if you hate it, if you want it gone forever. Let's get some lounge tunes here. Yeah, if you have any questions, here, guys, if you have appreciated this stream, my streams in the past, my level-headed approach, some of my trading strategies, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for being here with me. I love doing these streams with you guys, so love to see a bunch of familiar faces. That means you guys aren't sick of me yet. I'll keep going, see if I got any haters as per usual, because people don't like even considering potential bearish scenarios. But we will see. I'll take it. Heath, can you please sing us a song to check the audio? Oh boy. Apparently there's a karaoke party coming up next week, so maybe I'll get a recording for you guys. Long live the Stu Fibs. Here, let me turn this music down just a little bit. Loving the voice of reason, broski. Twitter turns me delusionally bullish. Yeah, and honestly, here's the thing. I'm not going to pretend that I'm for sure right about this, right? That's the thing, is I feel like I have a very level head about this. I'm willing to accept that my bearish theories could be wrong at this. I'm ready for it. I still have a bunch of my spot holdings. I have my... basically, if we start staircasing above all-time highs, yeah, bring on the parabolic run, sure. But it's just... to be completely oblivious to their, being trading at a macro resistance level. So many people out there are just saying, they see some green candles. People always, and myself included, it always looks like the price is strongest at resistance and it looks weakest at support. It's very natural to feel that way when you see it. And especially when we end up approaching resistance so aggressively like this. But understand that, it is still resistance. It doesn't mean it can't break, but it's time to be cautious. Keep stops tight. Use position sizing that you're comfortable with, right? That's another thing. If you're ever upset about losing a trade, you're probably way over leveraged, way too much margin on the position. Because you want to keep your emotions at bay. You should be able to handle many losses and still your account should be okay. Heisenberg shorted SEI. I will actually check that one out. Oh, nice. I would love that Bitcoin one to dump here for us. That would be just fantastic. I don't know. It is now weekend hours, right? So who knows? Volatility may slow down, or it may pick up. That's very possible. I like trading the weekend personally. A lot of people don't. I personally think that it's more predictable when the big players are kind of out of the picture. SEI. Heisenberg, you shorted it. I'm scared to short altcoins right now. Honestly, Bitcoin's mainly the thing that I'm willing to short right now just because it has hit macro resistance. Yeah, I don't know. SEI, a higher buy signal on the 4 hour and a higher sell signal, actually. Both of these are now trending to the upside. That's a pretty nice, potentially a pretty nice trade on the 4 hour, or a pretty nice support and trend. That's what I meant. Again, having those signals reversing like that, notice that how long we had a series of lower buy signals and lower sell signals. And notice that that trend has broken. And that's what a lot of altcoins look like. So maybe this is a breath of fresh air for a lot of you guys who think I'm a perma bear, but honestly, altcoins don't look as bad as Bitcoin to me. It just looks like they have more room to grow. And another thing about that, guys, is pay attention to, if altcoins start taking off, pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing as well, because if altcoins are taking off, but Bitcoin is dumping, I have my concerns that that's the last hurrah of the market cycle, and that is looking for exit liquidity kind of a thing. We have seen it the last couple market cycles where Bitcoin starts its sell-off and kind of starts consolidating, has its distribution range, and altcoins go nuts for a little bit, and then everything nukes. And that doesn't have to happen again, but the last two market cycles, we saw something like that. So pay attention to what's happening. If Bitcoin is moving with the altcoins and everything's just pumping, there's just a ton of new money coming into the market. That's totally not the case in that situation then. So it kind of depends what happens. But yeah, altcoins, a lot of them look like they're finding nice support, starting nice trends. I'm bearish too, and is why I started to like your streams. You have common visions in lots of analysis. Oh, I love to hear it. Nice to have another brother bear in the house. I know there's a few of us in here. And again, guys, I promise I'm not a perma bear. It's just I'm trying to be reasonable as we still have a macro structure break, right? Structure is also significantly different up here than it was down here, because we never really dropped a big range. We just kept, well, I guess technically there was a little bit of a structure break. All right, maybe. We'll see. But yeah, like I said, just a warning to the bears. I do think it's possible we climb higher. I I feel like a top is near, but if we invalidate this macro STUBER, we break above 115, then that theory's out the window, and we just have to see how structure forms at that point. The thing that would catch me off guard the most would be if the price pumps, invalidates this level, ends up setting another quick higher high, something like that, but then ends up losing the trend again immediately. That's where I'm going to feel silly giving my analysis, just because I will say that, hey, we invalidate this STUBER fib and, all my red flags are gone. I'm a moon boy now. And then we get something like that. And it's like, well, shit, the structure changed again immediately. That is something we're going to have to watch for. But as it stands right now, basically anywhere from here all the way up to 114K, in my opinion, is fair game for a reversal. But we're going to have to see. I'm not swinging at shorts right now expecting that to be the end of the cycle, right? I always like to start my shorts and same with longs. I like to start them as a bit of a scalp. And if I can take some profits along the way, secure it and remove my risk and catch a swing out of it, then that's fantastic. But sometimes I end up taking a few scalps, sometimes just getting stopped at break even multiple times until getting into that trade that actually runs. If that is what it is, then so be it. And that's not for everybody, right? Not everybody wants to do that. Some people like to set it and forget it, and that's totally fair too, right? I just don't have that personality, and I do like to babysit my positions. I do like to be changing them on the go quite aggressively, and especially when I'm looking at shorter time frames. I mean, yeah, structure changes very quickly. If you're trading a 1 minute chart, structure can be completely different a few minutes later. SEI is the biggest shitter of them all. Honestly, I don't really follow much with fundamentals, period. What exchange do I use for meme coins? Usually when I'm trading meme coins, if it's not on BloFin, then I'm trading like directly on a Solana exchange, for example, like Jupiter, more so something like that. Jupiter right on the Phantom wallet, whatever. Have a swing on hype on the 5 minute. Adrian, how did I know that you were going to mention that? Hype. We are in the 4-hour resistance that I have mapped out anyways. I wonder where this came from. Oh, let me just remove some indicators here. Okay, from the top of this range here. Honestly, I even have my questions about that. Let me check for a few other things. Anything obvious? Because here's the thing, I don't really consider this the top of the swing, because the downtrend was broken down here, right? Low, lower, low. Actually, low, lower, low, lower, low. So the trend technically right there was a beautiful reversal. As far as micro analyzing, beautiful reversal if you were to catch that. But you're more so looking for, or you never specified long or short, but let's check out the 5 minute here. Naked chart. Technically a STUBER already played out. I can see it right now, because we had this high, higher low, and this was actually broken. It was a swing fail, right? So we got a reaction. We ended up going up towards, guess what level? That's right, the 786. And so technically that scalp position has already played out on hype. So this is a little Captain Hindsight here from me. But still important, right? Just looking at the structure for what it is. If you ended up getting in at the 786, being we hit the 214 target, the 0.5 and the 214 target, I would have my stop at break even personally at that point, and just see what happens with the remaining second half of the position. Or if you want to look for more of a bullish scenario, then I would actually want this level broken first. Call that our resistance. I would actually want to see the price, if I was looking for a long, something like this. And the reasoning for that would be obviously setting a new higher high and then getting the pullback. This is the lowest point between the two. So that would be a STUBER fib pullback. That would be my ideal long situation, but we don't have the structure for that yet. But we do have the structure for the bearish one, right? But at this point, I don't think I would want to short this again because it's already played out in full once for the range. I would have less faith in it playing out again. If we're going to tap away at resistance, it's only a matter of time until it breaks, in my opinion. We are going to 93K within an hour. Oh boy. I would love to see it. I'll be clear about that. I would absolutely love to see that right now. I don't think it's probable, but I would love it. And guys, these setups, like I know something like this, it's already played out. And obviously it's in hindsight, so it's of no use to us now. But these are the types of trade setups that I teach in my Telegram repeatedly, always kind of showing examples of these in the past, in the future, things to watch for, all that sort of stuff. So if that is something that interests you, again, you can get into my Telegram channel by scanning the QR code or clicking the link and following the steps in the description down below. There is actually also currently a promotion from BloFin. I do not have that ready right now. Let me get that in a sec. But there's certain deposit and trading bonuses going on right now. I was just told this morning that my partners are giving me a new promotion for you guys who are in the Telegram. I will post that in there for you guys. And on top of that, guys, in the Telegram, if you are in there, check out the pinned messages. I have a more in-depth educational videos about these STUBER fib setups, kind of how I look at the structure, things to watch for, all that sort of stuff. So if you are in that Telegram channel and you haven't checked out the pinned messages, there is some good stuff in there available only to you guys in the private group there. Because yeah, obviously I go over many examples in these streams, but I break it down a little more and just more to the point there. So it's a handy video to have on hand. Sell for what? Just hold cash? If I sell some spot, kind of planning on buying a new vehicle, maybe some new kiteboarding equipment, maybe a couple upgrades around the house. Or if I end up selling and we very quickly break out to the upside, I might just buy back in and consider it a small loss, just like any other trade, right? That's the thing, guys. If I end up selling, I'll let you guys know in the Telegram if I do. If I end up selling some at this level, and then we end up going higher and I have to end up buying back in, I'm just going to consider it a small loss, just like any other trade setup that I take with leverage, just on spot instead. No different. Telegram, a chat, or is it just a bot? It's just me posting in there. It's just a place for me to keep all of my analysis, because if people want to learn more about STUBER fibs and that sort of stuff, it's a place where it's only my analysis in there. So yeah, it's not an actual chat. This is our chat. So, and that's the thing too, guys. If any of you guys in the Telegram have any questions, feel free to write them down and bring them to these chats, and I'll answer the best I can. Any idea of a place for BTC leverage in a brokerage? I just traded on right now. BloFin is the main one that I trade, just a typical crypto exchange though. For health, let's trade the shit coins. For one, trading shit coins is not for health. So if you are actually for health, you should know how dangerous that is to your mental health. The stress involved and just the mentality involved with the things you have to buy. That is not healthy. Thumb case, yeah, seems easier on the weekend. Price moves slower and signals seem cleaner. I agree. Especially like closer to the end of the weekly candle. Well, usually halfway through Sunday, as we get closer to the weekly candle close, things start to get a little more volatile. But so often, like, you know, that Saturday, early Sunday is where we start to get some very clean signals about what's happening with the trend. So yeah, I love trading the weekends. I think at least the fundamentals are pointing to a lot of new money coming into the asset, but I know you don't trade fundamentals. Yeah, but and see, that's exactly it. Is if interest rates actually get cut and a bunch of printed money does start coming into the markets, then obviously that will push the price through the resistance. And if we start going parabolic from there, I absolutely think that that's what would cause it. I don't see it happening without that personally. And I also don't know if it's actually going to happen. I know Trump keeps saying that it's going to happen. We're just going to have to see, right? But I absolutely agree. If a bunch of money starts coming into the market, then there's no doubt about it. It's most likely, well, yeah, not most likely. If a bunch of money starts coming into the market, then it's just going to invalidate all the red flags, and then we can carry on a beautiful bull market. And I would love it just as much as the next guy. I want to be clear about that. I want it to happen. I just can't ignore the red flags that I see. What kind of car do you drive? I actually drive a 4x4 SUV, so I'm not much of a city driver, more of driving down shitty back roads to kite surfing spots. So I would hate to have a sports car. The whole restructuring of the global order currently is really putting Bitcoin in a good position to catch some of that wealth reallocating. Yeah, absolutely. It could start to happen, right? That's the thing. If I agree that more money is going to start flowing into the market, but every market cycle has that. Every market cycle needs exponentially bigger players getting in the space to continue pushing the price higher, because even though, you know, the mining's getting cut in half, there is still mining happening. There is still constantly more Bitcoin being in circulation, other than I guess technically some get lost and that sort of stuff as well, right? But yeah, it just takes more money, and also the fact that there's way more altcoins, the money gets diversified and stuff like that. So it does just, every market cycle, since the market cap goes up so much, you need way more money to push the price to get similar price action. So yeah, even though it feels like this cycle should be different, it needs to be different to be the same, if that makes sense. But yeah, we're gonna have to see. Like I said, if a whole bunch of money starts coming into the market, interest rates get absolutely crushed to absolutely cut. Yeah, absolutely, I agree with you in that case. I think that's where we would see the market start to go nuts. Do I think SMT is dead? Not necessarily. I don't really follow the fundamentals there. I've only bought some because some people I respect in the space talked about it, and whatever. I've seen the product a little bit, but I think I saw that it was getting some decent gains the last little bit. I don't have a clue what the trade volume is or anything like that. And I know it's absolutely nuked. Yeah, that is a choppy looking. Oh boy, look at those wicks. This is a daily chart. Oh boy. Yeah, that's that's rough looking. There's signs of life. Let me go back to the daily chart. There's signs of life. The fact that we even though it is just a wick, we were pushing above this little resistance on this downtrend here. We never saw that anywhere else on this downtrend here. Like we had our low, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. And then we ended up breaking that, even though it's just a wick. Man, that's a rough one. I don't know what's going to happen there. I still have a little bag of it. Where did I end up buying? There's a double bottom on the weekly. So yeah, like my holdings are definitely down on this. I think this is where I was buying it. Or maybe it was back here. I don't even remember, to be honest. I've been holding it for a while. But that's a very small market cap, I believe. That's something I haven't even looked at in a long time. It's one of those bags I kind of forgot about, to be honest. In a small short. Yeah, I know I can control Z to undo things on Tradingview, but sometimes if I start making a bunch of random lines, then I don't necessarily want the last one removed. But thank you. BTC has reached a serious market cap. It does take institutional inflows on a large scale for this to move to 150K to 200K. Absolutely. It would take so much money to push us there, because remember, like for Bitcoin to go to those levels, 150K, 200K, if we have very large players in the space, understand that they are also going to be shorting and market making and selling for profit and all that sort of stuff on a very large scale as well, because very large players like that, you know, they're not holding on for the 100x gain or even the 10x gain. You know, they're from a different market where 30% is very large for a year, right? And now they're getting involved in crypto, so taking profits will be a thing. So, and not to say they can't push it that high, just understand there will also be a lot of sell pressure. And honestly, even retail, you know, there's going to be a lot of people selling, taking profits on the way. That reminds me, you guys, another red flag I had for the bears, because my bearish sentiment, obviously I went over a few reasons to be cautious from the bears. The retail, when I said the word retail, it made me think the retail short levels are still very high. It's, you know, the fact that only just below 37% of retail on Binance is long right now means that if we rally here, it's going to be a little bit of a hated rally. And I find that interesting because on social media, it seems like there's so many moon boys, but I don't know if they're just trading the opposite of what they're saying or what's happening there. But there's obviously a ton of retail is short right now, expecting this to not work out. And in that case, all these shorts could provide that squeeze where, you know, it's rocket fuel to the upside. So I did want to make that make an effort to mention that in this stream, as well as a warning for the bears, myself included, right? Can I check LTC? Yes. Let me check LTC here. LTC is one I have not looked at in a while. Some of you guys, especially those of you from the Telegram, will remember I was shorting Litecoin for a little bit. Caught some nice ones on that. The weekly, that is nice. That's a nice break. This daily, unfortunately, I must have mapped this out a long time ago because I don't remember mapping it out, but we obviously never ended up getting the STUBER fib pullback that I was hoping for there. My cat is yowling on the other side of my door. She wants to talk about this too. Let's see here. What do you have going on with Litecoin? You're in a long? In a long. Yeah, I mean, obviously it looks like it's in a nice trend right now. If I bring up the 4 hour, I mean, we have been staircasing higher, even just looking at very microstructure, right? I mean, I talk about microstructure quite a bit on this channel. Let's just go from this high here. We have a higher high, lowest point between the two, higher low, slightly higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So I know that seems ridiculous, but you can see it in the structure there that it's being respected. As far as the immediate trend, like just since where we've bottomed here and since we started trending to the upside here, as long as we stay above this little block right here around 97.22, I would say that Litecoin's in a beautiful uptrend on the 4 hours still. Trendmaster, we have support with this indicator coming in. So even if we got a little bit of a liquidity grab to the downside, there's still some good support there. So there is absolutely a nice little trend going for Litecoin yet. If it ended up seeing some sort of a crazy pullback, then obviously we would end up taking our fib pull from the bottom. But I think it's way too early to suggest something like that personally. Let's see what the 1 hour is looking like. Kind of same thing. I would be saying as long as we hold, above that 97.22. Same structure on the 1 hour, right? We had this high and we broke above it. Lowest point between the two is here. So as long as we stay above that, we're not closing candle bodies below that, then I think it's still in a good position. If we end up closing a candle body below that, then I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of a retest followed by a rejection. That would be quite natural, but we're going to have to see, right? Maybe not. Maybe it just ends up, maybe we just end up doing something like, a little pullback, some sort of a STUBER fib, but we only go back a little bit and then we just carry on, break it. Something like that. But yeah, basically as long as it's above 97, I think Litecoin looks great. A lot of old Bitcoin are coming online, including mine from 2015, still on legacy addresses. Nice. Yeah, you've definitely been in longer than me then. So you probably get it, right? I mean, 100K, it feels like we should go way higher as we trade into resistance, but you've been around for enough market cycles that when these red flags start to form, sometimes people don't mind taking profits along the way, right? Aloha, Stu. Aloha. Right back at you. How are you doing today? Long from 103. So down here. Oh, on the breakout, you said. Yeah, I mean, as long as we hold above this, if you're comfortable with breakout trades, and that's the thing too, right? That's the nice thing about when the price consolidates in levels like this, because then, with a breakout like this, it's still a nice tight invalidation, because if you break that, then okay, whatever, cut your losses. We might see a bigger pullback, or you could even wait until we get some sort of a structure break, let's say something like that, to get back into a new long or whatever. But at least you have some sort of a tight invalidation in this case. Just chasing the micro trend, basically. Yeah, my cat won't shut up. Sorry about that. She gets quite vocal. Bengals are, they have loud voice boxes. What is the biddy up to right now? Okay, so we really haven't done fuck all since I took the short before starting this stream. Just trading sideways. I'm gonna wrap up soon. I am going to go over just a couple meme. No, I'm not gonna get into the memers yet. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about showing coins that have market caps of like 1 million or 2 million or 5 million. Like I said, there's just some added risk there that if people aren't careful with low trading volume, low market caps, if people just ape into things, there's potential to get wrecked on slippage and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying this stream. Hopefully, you know, I know I show my STUBER fib strategies. I show how I like looking at the indicators and that sort of thing. Understand that everybody does trade the market completely different, right? That's why backtesting is so important, the replay feature on TradingView, because we could have I say this all the time, we could have the same trend lines, the same support, resist, flip areas, the same Fibonacci's, the same indicators. I promise you we would trade this market completely different. So do what works for you, right? Even though I nailed this downtrend, basically when I was warning about it from the top, I even said April 20th, I nailed this downtrend, but there could have been somebody scalping the bounces that was outperforming me, because at the end of the day, all that matters. It doesn't matter where you think it's going if you have a strategy in place that you are able to trade and systematically trade and repeat over and over. It really doesn't matter. Yeah, analysis is great, but at the end of the day, all that matters is how you're actually executing your orders. So, you know, just because I'm looking at things and potentially taking a short, you know, someone else could take longs from the exact same level and we could both profit just like we could both take a loss. It all depends how you end up playing it. But yeah. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. I just wanted to make sure I get a stream in. I might hit the river, do some paddleboarding or kiting or something tomorrow. So I wanted to make sure that I got some sort of a market update for you guys here. Hopefully you found this stream useful. If so, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss these live streams if you've enjoyed it. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories, some of my trade setup ideas, just my overall thoughts on the market and that sort of thing, there is the QR code on the screen, and there is also a link and steps in the description down below. With that, thank you all for being here with me this fine evening. Have a fantastic weekend, my friends. I'm out. Stay safe. Peace.